get started with Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, so let's look at what a right triangle is. A right triangle is a triangle with a right angle. So you see this right here. This is, I guess you can't see it, but it is a right angle, 90-degree angle. So we have our sides A, B, and C. A and B are the legs of the right triangle, and C is the hypotenuse of the right triangle. So I'm going to measure the sides of A using a grid, okay, like a cube. Okay, we can see right here that A is 3 units long, and why I'm using a cube I will show you in just a moment. Okay, and B is 4 units long, and C is 5 units long. Okay, so the reason why I'm using these grid square things is because I want you to see the relationship between A, B, and C. So we said A was 3 units long, and A squared is 9 units. B is 4 units long, and B squared is 16 units. Now let's look at C. C is 5 units long, and C squared, 5 squared is 25 units. So the relationship between the legs and the hypotenuse, again, that hypotenuse is the longest side of the triangle. It is always going to be the side opposite of the right angle, and that will always be equal to the amount of squares in A and B. So A had 9, B had 16, and C is 25. So 25 is equal to 9 plus 16. That brings us to our Pythagorean theorem. That says that A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So again, that's A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. This theorem is only valid for right triangles. Okay, this is not going to work on an equilateral triangle or an isosceles with 3 acute angles. This is going to work only for the right triangle. Sides A and B represent the legs of the triangle. Side C represents the hypotenuse of the triangle. Let's go over some steps for using the Pythagorean theorem. So on the right, I have a right triangle, and I have my sides. My legs are 5 and 12, and my hypotenuse is C. It is unknown, so that is what I'm going to solve for. So my first step is to identify the missing leg or hypotenuse of the right triangle and plug in the values for the other side. So, like I said, C is unknown, my hypotenuse is unknown, so I'm going to write the formula for the Pythagorean theorem, which is 5 squared, right? That's the first leg, plus 12 squared, which is the second leg, is equal to C squared. My second step is to isolate the variable. So in this case, my variable is already isolated. I already have C squared on one side by itself. So I'm just going to rewrite and simplify. 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144. So C squared is equal to 25 plus 144, which is 169. Now I need to solve for C by taking the square root of both sides. So C squared was equal to 169. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of 169 is just 13. So C is equal to 13. Let's look at some practice. Find the hypotenuse of a right triangle with the legs of 8 and 15. So this is a lot like the example that we used in the previous slide. We have our legs and we don't know what the hypotenuse is. So here's a refresher of what Pythagorean theorem is. We're going to replace A and B with the length of our legs. So that's 8 squared plus 15 squared is equal to C squared. Now I'm going to simplify. 8 squared is 64 and 15 squared is 225. Now I need to add 64 and 225. That's going to be 289. Now I need to take the square of both sides, and I'm going to get C is equal to the square root of 289. And apparently I did not do anything else with that. Okay. Find the length of a leg of a right triangle whose hypotenuse is 25 and whose other leg is 20. So I'm setting up my equation. I have a squared plus 20 squared because we said the other leg is 20 and the hypotenuse is 25 squared. So this looks a little bit different, but we're going to be following the same steps. My first step is I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. So 20 squared is 400, 25 squared is 625. So I just rewrote it by simplifying. And now off to the side, I'm going to write, because I still need to isolate the variable, I need to remove that 400 and I'm going to subtract both sides by 400. So I have 625 minus 400. That is going to give me 255. Now I need to take the square root of both sides. I'm going to take the square root of a squared, which is just a, and then a is equal to the square root of 255. And I cannot believe that I did not write the answers to this thing. Okay, because the square root of 225, just kidding. Wow, I wrote that wrong on the side. It should be 15. Okay. So a is equal to 15. Sorry that it was not written there and simplified, but that is what it is. And then let's see. And for that previous one, C is equal to 17. The square root of 289 is 17. So, yeah, that teaches you to not make slides at night. Haha, just kidding. Okay, well, I hope that helped, and I hope you have a very blessed day.